They're looking for members just like any other dispensary, so we'll check them out. Like what they have. The three that I've had certified right now. Yep. So thanks for tuning in again. This is the Wake and Bake Show with K-High. Make sure you subscribe to the K-High YouTube feed. See you next time.
Georgia. Recreational marijuana will be legal in Oregon on July 1st. July 1st, right? Same
This is K-High 58, the world's first station dedicated to marijuana awareness. How in the world can
we'll talk about local control and what that means from a legal standpoint.
But there is medical benefits.
Then we'll check the 920, and we got calls at 920 and 920.
That's taking place, changing society, just like the end of prohibition during the 60s and any time in history when Americans have reestablished their freedom. You'll hear all that and even funny stoners. This is K-High, the lead talk station. Look, the worst part about business travel is worrying about my wife and kids at home alone. My family's safety is my responsibility.
You ready to go?
That's why I started researching home security. I called the
You didn't sleep much last night. I can tell you, you're dragging a little bit there, buddy.
You know,
technology for the best
I
price.
go about 12, 1,
The consumers
one,
that just
two,
best value.
1,
Yes,
Let's get up.
security
I think
system.
about 5:30.
Why?
I just I wake up 5:30. Late, my body wakes up. Maybe I'm still on East Coast time,
I can even lock the doors remotely.
but I typically wake up early. Can't explain it.
No equipment costs.
The Kentucky people out today. We got the Civil Wheels, the interviews up from
The,
Jefferson. They will release the Kentucky one. Then we'll have Nashville. Then we'll have just the SES.
Kyle, go ahead and get a mic check for everybody.
Sound check, sound check.
hello, this is Mike 1.
Mic 1 sounds good. Mic 2.
Mike 2, KC. Good morning.
You got?
You need that up a little bit?
No. I said, is that it? Just mic 1 and 2?
That's
That's it.
1-2 punch.
All right, rock on. Be
Thank
live in
you.
about 2.5 minutes.
Thank you.
sir.
We got Kentucky. Are they hemp or are they cannabis?
Well, there's the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition, KCFC, and then there's he's the one that actually picked me up when my transmission broke down. Pat Dunnigan, really nice guy. He's our first contact there. Very active. He's the one that got us in to meet the Senator Higgins.
Is that at 920?
Yes. And then at 9:40 we have the Kentucky hemp farmer, Chad Wilson.
Okay.
He actually not only came to our event, and
Is he the one that shipped cannabis to Pure Vision?
I'm not sure. I know he's the one that has the vending machine. And
Oh, that's right.
He actually came from Kentucky down to Tennessee rally as well. He understands the process for the hemp applications, policies, and procedures there in New York or in Kentucky. And Pat has the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition, so he works in the bills, works on advocacy. Really smart guy.
Okay, cool. Thanks for doing that, by the way.
Oh, well, it's tomorrow we'll have Tennessee. That'll wrap up our tour rebound. People in Tennessee, there's a lady that has a patient's wall. I don't want a patient's wall. Dana. Interesting story.
Okay, cool.
Satisfaction guaranteed. Just go to tryhousenow.com. 740 KVOR. This is KI. We report the news like Commissioner President David called and forgot where the station was located.
I
like it. I love it. I want more of it. Let's take care of business, Mr. Howard. Welcome to the Cannabusiness Attorney Hour. This is KC Star.
Good morning, everybody.
Mr. Charles T. Howard.
This is Charles, the Cannabusiness Attorney. I've got my partner in crime here, KC, and we are going to take care of business this morning because we got a lot of stuff that's going on around the country, and a couple of callers, one from Tennessee,
two from Kentucky, actually.
Two from Kentucky that we're going to be talking with a little bit later on. But one of the things that that popped up in the news yesterday was stuff that is going on, activity that's going on in Oregon. They've had a little bit of issues in getting Oregon's recreational program going. And one of the things that we've seen is that these bills get battered around back and forth with the legislature, and that's why I always kind of preach, you got to watch these guys because, you know, like someone said, either your life or your property is safe while the legislature's in session.
Well said.
And so, anyway, the legalization of marijuana, the recreational marijuana in Oregon, was voted on by the voters of the people of Oregon, and it's supposed to go live on July 1st. And we're, you know, late in the game, obviously, and they're still fighting over the legislation that's going to make it possible. But one of the things that's really become kind of a political football is the amount of local control, and that means, you know, either the city or the county that you're in, or both in some situations. You know, how much control do they really have over the regulation and things like that? Now, in Colorado as a model, and most other places, the regulation is a two-tiered. One is at the state level, and then the other one is at the local level. And it is amazing, you know, most people think that the state has most control, but it's really the locals that have the most control.
And that's what we've seen across the country. There's a bit of a splish and a splash, a pig and a pond to this. You do have the state license authority, which basically interprets the amendment and sets up the structures for the application and policies. But that local town, city, or county has the right to set up the time, use, and manner. And it looks like there's been a stalemate for weeks there in Oregon. You know, this was law. This is just 14 days away, Mr. Howe. This is supposed to go legit in Oregon on July 1st, 2015, right around the corner, 14 days away. The people voted for it, and yet the legislative body has yet been able to come to stalemate. And what we're looking at now is giving more authority to that local licensing authority, the town, city, or county, so they can swallow the bill based on, you know, Measure 91, last year's election, and it allows the town, city, or county to actually ban recreational or medical marijuana if they so choose. And that's exactly what happens in Colorado.
Yeah, but well, not exactly, because in Oregon, what they did was they allowed them to ban it, but in counties that voted overwhelmingly against the measure.
Only in those counties.
Only in those counties. And so what it does is, this is a unique approach. And to me, it makes a great deal of sense, because if I'm in a county that for whatever reason have said, we don't want this in our backyard, you know, and I call them NIMBYs, it stands for not in my backyard. And you'll run into that. That's a term that we'll talk about a little bit later on. But if you voted against it overwhelmingly in your county in Oregon, then that all of a sudden gives the power of the local government to institute a ban against both medical and recreational marijuana in that county. So, you know, in a sort of weird way, you know, I am obviously a very strong advocate for having open businesses wherever they can be, but I'm also cognizant that I really don't want to go to a party where I'm not wanted. And if I'm not wanted in that particular county, as long as I have another place to be, another viable outlet, you know, that they haven't legislated me out of business, then I think that having some degree of local control is a good idea. I just hope that in those counties that they don't pass an outright ban.
Well, we've seen that here in Colorado. You know, there's the majority of counties here in Colorado do not allow recreational or medical marijuana sales.
Yeah, and that's
really
that's news to a lot of people.
That is news to a lot of people. Most people I talk to across the country on our End of Prohibition tour had the same replies. You know, they assume, based on what they've seen, that Colorado is just awash in weed, but it actually is in a very small minority of counties and cities that actually allow it in Colorado. The majority of sales are on the I-25 corridor between Denver and Colorado, Boulder, Fort Collins, and then on the I-70 corridor up into the Breckenridge Vale mountain terrains. So when we look at that option, it really is a bill, and bills, every one of them has good and bad in it. There's never a perfect bill. But this looks at a way to stop the stalemate so Oregon can actually start preparing to issue licenses and set up these businesses, because they're supposed to do it in 14 days. And it's sad that it's taken this long for them to get by that stalemate. This doesn't take a rocket scientist. We have it here in Colorado. Let the local licensing authorities make their own decisions, set time, use, and manner, and then that puts the democratic process back in the hands of those voters at the most local level. So I congratulate them on coming to a bit of a compromise, but this still has to go on to the Senate. This is just, let me see it, Joint House Senate Committee sends the bill to the full House. So this still is not over. So there's 14 days to go time in Oregon, and these legislators have not respected the will of the people. They have not set up the process to do this, and it insults me because it's not that hard. Really, it's not that hard. We've done it. You can look at Colorado. We can look at Missouri. We can look at all these bills across this nation where they're trying to solve these problems. This is not rocket scientists. It's a plant. It grows. You can tax it. You can regulate it. We've done it in Colorado. So monkey see, monkey do. It should be done. And I'm glad they got past this, Mr. Al, but I'm not impressed.
Well, I'm not either. But the thing that I think that we need to, two things that need to come out of this. First thing is that if you're planning on getting in business, whether it's in Colorado, Oregon, or wherever, that's really the first place that you need to go is to your local government and find out where, or even if it's possible.
That's where we met, at our local government. That's where Mr. Hought and I actually met, was doing the exact same. We practice what we preach here. You know, that's where Mr. Hought and I bumped heads 5-6 years ago, was at a local government meeting. And if you take action at your local level, town, city, or county, you can change those laws, and they're going to let it happen there in Oregon. Let that local town, city, or county ban them.
Yeah, and
they choose.
What Casey is referring to is that Casey and I both said on the City of Colorado Springs Medical Marijuana Task Force 6 years ago or more, that we crafted the rules and regulations that allowed then just medical marijuana, well, still just medical marijuana in Colorado Springs, but we crafted the rules and regulations that allowed the industry to move forward here. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with Colorado Springs, you know, we have a number of military installations. We have Fort Carson, Peterson Air Force Base, the Air Force Academy,
and Space Command,
and Northcom. So we've got, you know, a lot of military presence here, and also too we have a lot of mega church influence here. We've got Focus on the Family here, New Life Church, the Navigators. We've got a lot of religious presence here too, and so you know we seem to have had our work cut out for us to get any kind of approval. But I think
yet we were able to overcome all those. I remember sitting in those meetings with general after general testifying that if this went forward, that it would ruin our city. Home ownership groups coming to testifying that this would ruin our neighborhoods. The exact opposite had happened. You know, home values are going up. Real estate is in demand.
Commercial real estate is impossible to find still.
Taxes are being collected. Roads and bridges are being funded and filled in schools.
If they can just figure out a way to fill the potholes.
Yes, here in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
So if you look at Colorado Springs, they passed medical marijuana but did not approve recreational marijuana yet.
And so I think the upside of the whole thing is that even if you feel like you're facing, you know, the odds against you, that, you know, everything is going to line up and you're going to lose. We didn't take no as an answer, and I don't think you should either. And as a result, we have a viable medical marijuana industry in Colorado Springs, also in El Paso County, where Colorado Springs sits. And it is in large part because of people that volunteered and came forward and said, yeah, we can make this work. But I think the biggest thing that local governments should pay attention to is, before you start legislating these things out of existence or banning them or banishing them to the worst neighborhoods or whatever, I think you need to take the time to educate yourself and find out, whether there is really a foe here. Where is the enemy? I always refer to it as, when we were talking with people, it's like we're having a witch hunt without a witch to hunt. There's no boogeyman here. There's no, evil thing that's going on. As a matter of fact, there was a recent study that was done, and we mentioned it yesterday, that says legally, the headline is legalizing medical marijuana hasn't made U.S. teens smoke more weed. Now,
that was one of those witches and one of those boogeymans that we had to hunt back there. And everyone that's listening to this radio show across this country, when you work with these legislators, that's one of the witches. The thought that somehow by having marijuana, teen use is going to go up, and it's a gateway drug. We've seen that is not the case now. And we've also talked to doctors that consider it an exit drug.
Well,
to help people off alcohol addictions and off hard drug addictions.
Well, and the thing was, I've got a daughter. At that time, she was a teenager. She is now, this Friday, she's going to turn 25.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, and she's a great kid. She's a manager of a dispensary in Denver. And, people say, that idiot that said, I feel sorry for the youth in Colorado. Well, if my daughter is any example of the youth in Colorado, forgive me if I'm a little bit biased, let's bring some more in. Because at 24, soon to be 25, what is she doing? She is managing a multi-million-dollar company.
Marijuana facility. That's what's beautiful. And you allow these operations and creates those jobs and opportunities for the next generation that's going to follow us, John, your daughter included.
Yeah, and the thing is that this study, it wasn't a small study, and it wasn't done over a short
period. It was the largest study.
It was 1 million teens that they studied between 1991 and 2014. And what they found was that among 8th graders, the use of marijuana actually dropped during that time period in states that legalized marijuana. And I think, first of all, here's my experience with kids, and like I told you from the outset, that's kids and entrepreneurs. Those are the 3 people that I've got a real soft spot for. I personally do not believe that the use of marijuana is for kids unless they have epilepsy or some other condition that's going to help them. And even then,
we've seen that over and over again.
Yeah, but there's a certain age, and I think it's 21, where they should be allowed to make decisions on their own. They have to make decisions on their own. And what I have found is that teenagers are both incredibly smart and incredibly stupid. And in order to kind of guide them, they need parents. I have seen teenagers do some of the dumbest things that you're looking at them and just going, what in God's name were you thinking about
doing? My parents raised us the same way. You have a free will. You're responsible for yourself. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from them or not. So by, just exposing people to knowledge, and knowledge is power. We take the reefer madness umbrella off this thing. When you look behind the Oz curtain, it really is just a plant. It does not increase adult use. It creates opportunity for entrepreneurs and employees, like a manager of a store.
But the thing is that I think it comes right down to both educators, teachers, and to parents. And I don't think parents can abdicate their role as a parent to a teacher. And I know I'm getting way off topic here.
That's what Brittany said yesterday, actually. Yeah. Brittany with Central Missouri considered it a parental rights issue on how she handles not only her medical access, but my child in my home is my responsibility, and every adult has a responsibility to keep drugs and alcohol and weapons away from children. It's a no-brainer. It's not just weed. It's just common sense.
Yeah, but you've got to teach your kids, what your values are, where you stand on issues, and hopefully they will make great decisions. but you have to, you can't hide this from them anymore. It is a part of our society, and to try and bury your head in the sand or try and legislate it out of existence.
It doesn't make the solution, it just continues the problem.
Well, we've proven over the last 40 some odd years, 50 years, that the war on marijuana and the war on drugs in general is a war that we're not winning and we're not going to. What we need to do is not that way. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat. We're going to skin this cat in a different way.
I think I've found in my lifetime, whenever we declare war on a noun, it usually doesn't go very well for us.
Amen.
If we actually have a destination in combat, we can achieve that destination. What we're seeing here on the Cannabusiness Attorney is our destination is ending prohibition, creating job opportunities, creating responsible legislation that allows for that opportunity, state by state, place by place, city by city, from sea to shining sea. So in Oregon right now, they've come up with a compromise which allow that bill to move forward. The program is supposed to go into effect, recreational marijuana in Oregon, July 1st, 14 days from now. You've just reported there as well that, based on a 10-year study with millions of people, that legalization of cannabis does not increase teen drug use dramatically. So when you're out there working across the nation, and from Kentucky to Kansas, from Alaska to Florida, that's one of the witches we have to hunt. So use that information to your knowledge when you're speaking with your representatives. We've met representatives there in Kentucky, Senator Higdon, the Republican Majority Whip, Mr. Howard.
Well, and I think also too, getting back to the children and teenagers and everything like that. Since we, this is a study that was done by somebody who wasn't trying to prove anything. They just wanted to report what the result was. They're not pro marijuana. They're not against marijuana. They did a study to find out what happened.
Science.
Yes, and so what we're finding is that maybe the reason why teenagers take drugs is not because they're legal, is maybe there's something else that's going on. They're trying to self-medicate. They're trying to do a lot of different things, try to be cool, trying to, whatever the situation is. But the fact that it's legal isn't the catalyst or the impetus for them to start moving forward, down that path. And so, again, to me, it's encouraging. But it also puts the responsibility right back where it belongs, and that's with parents, and that's with people that are educating our kids to, tell them the truth. Like Casey always says, truth to power. These kids, you can't lie to them.
And we've seen that actually. It's just a tragedy. Just yesterday, Shauna Banda turned herself in. She's facing 30 years in prison because her child spoke truth to power. She had been through 17 surgeries, I believe. She was not in good shape. She was on medication that to help ease her suffering in today's sort of condition. So she tried cannabis, found it to be effective. Her child noticed that, as a child will, whether you're 10 years old or 20. An adolescent picks up on that. So that child was in school. And they had a conference on DARE and talked about marijuana and how it's a gateway drug, the witch of reefer madness, and that child spoke truth to power. But that had dramatic implications on that woman's life and that child. To my knowledge, as of yesterday, she has still not been able to see the child. The child was taken away from her in child custody simply because she was using cannabis to save her own life. So, this
and if there's a
touches
crime,
everybody, every fabric of our existence.
Yeah, and if there is a crime somewhere, that's the crime.
Yes, Americans should have access to the right of their private property, the right of their body, the right of their doctor choice, and now the right of their own medicine. I think this is a new civil rights issue from sea to shining sea. And we're going to have people calling this afternoon or this morning, and it's just amazing. We've seen it. So, I guess we'll catch you after the break.
Yeah, we've got some people that are from Kentucky that you need to hear their stories and what they're doing. Again, we're trying to make business possible. In order to make business possible, you got to have the rules behind it. We'll catch you on the other side. Is that a two or a four? Okay, that done?
Yep, there you can. Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition.
Okay, let's see if we can get ringing. Do you hear it ringing?
Yes. We'll call chat at 4 o'clock.
Hello? Hey, is this Mr. Dunnigan? Mr. Dunnigan, this is Charles Houghton. I've got you on the phone with Casey. I will remind you that you are live on a YouTube feed right now, but we are not broadcasting right at this particular second. YouTube is, but the other one isn't. I want to give you a little bit of background on what we're going to do so that you feel comfortable. We are on a break right now. We'll be back in about a minute and a half. What will happen is that you'll hear music in the background. You'll hear Casey and I talk just a little bit. Then Casey will introduce you, and we'll start kind of a banter back and forth about what you're doing in Kentucky. I want to make sure that you plug how people can get a hold of you and help what it is, with what it is that you're doing, and give some information about what you're doing, so, feel free to do that shameless plug for what it is that you're doing, because really what we're trying to do is get this information out to people. And, we want to know about your background, how you got involved in this, like I said, what you're doing and how you're doing it, that kind of thing. We'll have roughly 20 minutes, and it'll go by in a New York minute. It goes by really quick. Yeah. So anyway, when we come back, we'll be talking with you. But just hang on the phone. Don't go anywhere.
This is my John Deere I'm not kidding. I like the way the weed nips on KI smell. I mean, they all smell like they bathed in pot. You can get high just talking to these guys. They're on every day from 5 to 7 on KI.
Good morning, everybody. We are back. We've been talking about what's going on, not only at the local level, but also how to get involved a little bit. One of the people that is heavily involved in the industry is a gentleman by the name of Pat. Casey, talk to us about Pat.
It was amazing. While we were setting up for End of Prohibition, we reached out across this country, came across Pat. He has a whole lot of activity, a whole lot of work he's done there. His name is Pat Dunnigan with the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition. He actually introduced us to Senator Higdon out there, introduced us to patients. He even picked me up when my transmission broke down. So, hey, Pat, are you on the line this morning? It's good to be back in Colorado. It was a tragedy to have my transmission break down, but when we met there at the Capitol, Mr. Houghton, Pat was leading the charge. He had patients there. He had scheduled with Senator Higdon, the Republican whip. We walked right in there, past all the towers of power. Pat, tell America who you are and what you're doing there in Kentucky. That's a very good goal to have. It's not easy. We noticed that when we met with the senator. How did that go there in Kentucky? What do you think about the meeting?
Yeah, and see, and that's the thing is that we are, borderline preaching here is that, Pat, I'm going to just go way out on a limb and guess that you are not a professional politician. Um, yeah, but what he said is you got to have guts enough to call these guys. And I think
Pat has some guts.
Yeah, well, and Pat backed me up on this deal. Even though it's difficult, it's doable. You can get a hold of these people. Well, see, and that's again, it's just that little bit of education, that little bit. Okay, they're collecting the address not so that they can come and take your kids away, just so that the legislator knows that you actually come from his district or her district. So again, it's okay to be cautious, but let's be cautious about the right thing. It's that same thing. It's okay to have a witch hunt as long as you've got a witch to hunt.
Well, Pat had a witch to hunt that day. We met there at the state capitol in Kentucky, Frankfort, Kentucky, on top of that gorgeous hill overlooking the Kentucky River. And that is a mansion. This is the Roman Colosseum. These state capitals are gigantic and obscene in their beauty and history. We had to walk under a tunnel to meet the Senate Annex. Pat was there. He scheduled with the Senate Majority Whip. Senator Higdon met with us for about 20 minutes to listen to Pat's stories. Pat, you had those, you still have patients contacting you out there. Tell us a little bit about the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition. That's exactly right, Pat. You need to keep pushing forward. That's what we saw with him. When we talked about the local level, we talked about the control. Senator Perry Clark was also there, Pat, and he came out and spoke to everyone at the Rotunda. Tell us about your experience with Senator Perry Clark and how you're working. You're not done. You're going to just keep moving forward, aren't you?
Well, see, and that's what you need to have is somebody who's just like that he'll put aside all of the misinformation and lies and reefer madness and move forward. And, my hat goes off to people like that are willing
Senator Perry Clark came out of his time, out of his day, to come to the Capitol. He met with patients. He met with farmers. He spoke with us. It was good to see both sides of that, from someone like Senator Perry Clark that is really, a Statue of Liberty there, all the way up to the Majority Whip that kind of gave us a bit of a, one step forward, one step back. I'd like to, but you take it through the channels and use the channels, I think was the message he gave me. But, he has the power to do a lot more than that. And until that reefer madness ends in Kentucky, it's going to take people just like you. And we're so proud to see what you've done there. The decrim bill and the medical bill, these are coming back in the next legislative session. Is that correct?
Well, see, and that's what,
or the recreational. You're going for full adult use, aren't you? That's the way to go. I like that.
Well, aim high, and also too, it gives just that many more people the opportunity to get in business, to tell their boss exactly where they can stick it, and live the American dream. They can start their own businesses. They can thrive. They can create something that their families will be proud of and put food on the table at the same time. But more importantly, I always preach this, and there's, we're going to do business, but we're going to do good. And by doing good, we're going to put patients that need the medicine are going to have it, and people who want to be entrepreneurs or who are entrepreneurs but need an outlet, they need the next best big idea.
And Pat, you actually have, you're not just doing this as an advocate and as an American and as a Kentuckian, but you have personal experience. You've seen lives change because of this, because of cannabis. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Most definitely. I have. If you go to our website, Kentucky.com, I have a place where you can actually submit a story or thoughts about legalization of cannabis. And I have letters sent in every day, every week, like how cannabis has changed people's lives here in the state of Kentucky better. Kentucky citizens want this to happen. And just as KC and I walked in the Senator Hagan's office, I handed them those letters from which they took care of Kentucky citizens want this change. He read each one of those.
Yeah, and see, and that's important because legislators, they're not going to, they're probably not going to do the research all by themselves. They need to be told what the problem is and what the solution is.
Politicians typically react to the most pressing squeaky wheel. If you're not loud, if you're not proud, they're not going to even notice you. They put this in the back burner for 79 years. They've incarcerated people. We met all sorts of people there in Kentucky that had done the crime and done some time, and it's ruined their lives in many ways. It takes away social mobility. It takes away economic development.
Tears families apart.
It tears families apart. So Pat, he actually walked in there with those letters from those patients, and you're still getting those every day. Is that correct? And that was legalizekentucky.com. The website again? So actually, if you're listening to this radio today and you want to go ahead and send some more information and reach out and become part of ending prohibition in America and in Kentucky and with people like Pat at the KCFC, then it's very simple. Legalizekentucky.com. Tell them your story, get involved, and become part of the solution. And let's end this problem of prohibition that is, Kentucky. When I was there, I did my research, and the bluegrass state has very unique soil, Mr. Howden. It has a very unique, it sits between a lot of rivers. It's surrounded by it has 5 border states. Those states not very many states have that. So it has a great water system. It has great soil. It has access to 5 states on its borders. Kentucky, when it starts growing hemp and cannabis, this could really change the situation we saw there with poverty in Kentucky. That well, you're aiming high there, and it's people like you. And if you're listening to this, Pat, I met him online. He was doing a lot of work, making so much noise that I recognized him, and his senators recognize him. This is an average American that is doing what our founding fathers and mothers told us we could do, and that is to pursue a more perfect union. We have the right to change the laws that we see as unjust. America is a continual spectrum and a slide towards a more perfect union and more liberty, whether it's our property rights, our rights of our own medicine, our rights of our own privacy are even being questioned today. So you've led the charge there in Kentucky with the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition for over almost a year now. Is that correct? Now you've grown quite a bit. I saw thousands of followers, I believe, on Facebook.
My God, that and seeing that's huge, and that to me, it's not just about the cannabis, but it's about people exercising their rights as U.S. citizens to say, listen, we don't like the way things are going, and we're going to change it. And believe me, the people in Kentucky are smarter than their legislature, And the legislature just needs to listen to them, and the people need to tell them, tell them the truth about what's going on in the cannabis industry, and where the concerns are, and where again, it's a witch hunt without a witch to hunt. The time when this reefer madness craziness has got to stop, and it stops with people like Pat Dunnigan, who's willing to stand up and say, listen, we want change, and you're doing it exactly right. You're going to the legislators, and you're finding out that they're not, sitting in a tower of power, that they are willing to listen to you, even if they disagree with you. And that's huge.
Well said.
Yeah, I love that slogan.
So if people do want to get in touch with you, and you're listening to this, really legalizekentucky.com. Pat is a super trooper on the ground doing the work. So if you don't have time to work with your legislator or read the laws or work at the bills, you can reach out to Pat any time of the day, and we can testify to the work he's done on the ground. We were very impressed.
Pat, what kind of things can people do to help you in order to reach the goal? What can people actually physically do to help you? Yeah, and listen to what he's saying. All he's saying is speak out. He wants you to take just enough time out of your day, and I bet you can find 5 minutes in your day to call that 800 number and let them know. He's not asking for money. He's not asking for anything else. He's asking that you speak up. And, it's as simple as that. All you got to do is speak up.
We spoke about there, as you gave me one of those lovely sweet iced teas there in Kentucky. I got addicted to that sweet iced tea on the tour, by the way. Thank you, Kentucky and Tennessee. You have great sweet tea. But yeah, Pat actually is setting up the July 2nd through the 5th at the largest flea market in Kentucky. It's going to be amazing that, you were bold enough to take that challenge on, and he's absolutely right. If you can sign up and you can vote up, you can change your nation.
And that's that's, I think, what one of the things we want to hear. Cannabis is the subject matter, but the real heart of this is listen to what Pat is doing. It's not just about cannabis. It's getting people to vote. It's getting people to exercise the right that countless number of men and women have fought and died for. So get out there and vote. So Pat, once again, tell everybody how to get a hold of you, and give them that 800 number again. We've got about a minute before we go to break. One 800-372. Do it again. 7181. If you're in Kentucky, call that number. Get on Pat's Facebook page. Go to legalizekentucky.com. Show that the solidarity that you need, because you can change the nation just by voting.
That's right. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you, Pat. You too. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. We're going to have to go on to the next caller, but we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you, sir. Good work.
looks like me, you flunked your penmanship class. They say that poor handwriting is a sign of intelligence.
That's just, yeah.
Yeah, if that's the case, I got Einstein beat the hands. You know.
Chad, I wonder if he has a timing issue. He has been fantastic. He showed up. He's not like that.
Okay.
He's not like that at all.
There's something came out. We're talking about Hampton, Kentucky, and
I have quite a bit of info here.
a little bit more local stuff.
More than U.S. Canada's Expo coming up as well.
Yeah, we need to plug in.
Like Commissioner President David called. I forgot where the station was located.
Breaking it off.
Good morning. Here we are at the Cannabis Business Attorney. This is Charles T. Howden, and my name is Casey Stark with HowToMarijuana.com. It's a beautiful day in Colorado. Great day for cannabis. We just got off the phone with Pat Dunnigan with the Kentucky Cannabis Freedom Coalition. We met him on our End of Prohibition tour as we were going across the state, capital by capital. We met up there in the state capital of Frankfort, Kentucky, on the hill, Mr. Howden. Huge, beautiful building. Security check, walked in, and within about an hour, we were there at the Senate Majority Whip's desk, handing him with Pat these testimonials from patients that are contacting him, Kentucky citizens that are demanding access to cannabis, access to hemp, access to liberty. However, there's a problem in Kentucky that the majority have let these bills die. They had 2 decriminalization bills last year. They had 2 medical marijuana bills last year, and rather than let them go through committee and let them become law, as the majority of people in Kentucky want, they let them die on the Senate floor, die in committee, die on the House floor, or just never even take them up for a vote. So it really is, it's good and it's sad, but this is a fight, and it's not an easy one. Whether you're a hemp farmer or an advocate, this is a political football, and it takes winning those rules and regulations at the ground floor, at the local licensing authority, at that state capitol, where you can walk in and talk in and speak truth to power and actually be part of the solution.
Well, and then, you know, his slogan that they put together says it all. You know, we're fighting within the law to change unjust laws. And, you know, I love the slogan. I love the sentiment behind it. And, you know, it's people like that Pat at legalizekentucky.com that are going to make a difference. And they're doing it exactly the right way. They're going to their legislatures and saying, listen, you know, these laws are unjust. we are ready for a change, not only for patients, but for people who want to be in business in Kentucky, and also to keep, people, Kentuckians, from being unjustly incarcerated because of an archaic law against a plant that is not, is not hurting anybody.
You know what, Mr. Houghton, I just got a text message. We've got a Kentucky hemp farmer that wants us to give him a call. Let's see if we can buzz this line here, Mr. Houghton.
Okay, just a second here. Give me that number again.
There it is. So all across the state, we've met a lot of people with our End of Prohibition tour, and it really was amazing. The Americans we met from all the way from Colorado to Kentucky and now Nashville, Tennessee. Let's give a call out here, Mr. Houghton.
Well, we're waiting for it to ring. Let me try it one more time. Sorry about the noises that you're going to hear. Oops, wonder if I dial the right number, that makes all the difference in the world. It's funny that you have to put those numbers in a particular order if you want to reach a particular person. One ringing.
Hey, good afternoon, Chad. How's it out there in Kentucky? It's we're back here on K-High Radio at Let's Talk Pot with my attorney, Mr. Charles T. Houghton, the Cannabusiness Attorney. And I was just telling about what you're doing out there in Kentucky. We actually met Chad, not only in Kentucky, but he came down to the Tennessee rally. Tell everyone who you are and what you're doing there in Kentucky, Chad.
My name is Chad Wilson, and I am Great Remedy Incorporated. We are licensed in Kentucky and home use holder for raising over 60 acres of hemp this year, focusing on the processing of plants. The great thing we're doing here is we're helping our local farmers and lift them up and give them the viable stuff that can make them talk well. We're focusing on full plant production, but the main focus being on CO2 extraction. We are bringing, as far as we know, one of the largest extraction facilities that will we can produce and process approximately 1.5 tons of dried flower a day.
Oh my, and
We're just basically building a network and bringing vending machines into the state and creating ways for our hemp artists here in the state of Kentucky that are making equal great product so they can bring to the market. So we're really focused on helping others.
Chad, again, listen to what he's got to say. It is, he's helping others, but he's putting farmers back on the farm where they belong. And, to me, that's huge. I grew up in a rural farming / ranching community in southeast Colorado, and I watched my hometown die on the vine, for lack of a better term, because they sold their water rights because they couldn't make it as farmers anymore. And to me, that farming is as much a part of America as America is. And to be able to put farmers back on the farm is huge. And I will tell you that when we were doing our End of Prohibition tour and the Marijuana Business Academy that we did in Kansas City, Casey actually found a slide for me. It's a plaque that showed that Kentucky in 1850 was one of the largest producers of hemp. And in 1850, they produced a crop of hemp that was worth $5 million. Well, I couldn't resist, so I figured out what $5 million in 1850 dollars would be. In 2015 dollars, that's $142 million. Can you imagine a $142 million crop in Kentucky and what that would mean to Kentuckians?
It's life-changing, and that's what this plant has the ability to do. You can go to Nicholasville, Kentucky, and right on the corner of the square, they have a sign. And, that's what kills me about the prohibition, especially in hemp. As we go all throughout our heritage in Kentucky and here, you go to Nicholasville and you see a sign that can come out and it's called the light marker. And, the Jones, it's a more efforts.
Yeah.
Hope, health, and wealth. I think
Yeah.
you said it very nicely. Hope, health, and wealth. You know, and if you're listening to this, you know, this is example what Pat's talking about earlier, is that if you work and change the laws, you can actually take advantage of that and help your family, help your society. In Kentucky, you've set up the first, to my knowledge, hemp farms in 79 years. How has that process been? Tell us about that.
See, and
Wow,
that's huge. And I got
You're right.
yeah. Well, and it, you know, and that is huge. And the thing that I want you to, you know, also hear, you kind of glossed over it. Somebody called him crazy. Okay, I like crazy, because the crazy ones are the ones that will not stop. The crazy ones are the ones that make change. So, you know, I would wear crazy as a banner, you know, and I don't mean legally insane kind of crazy, but I mean someone who's unafraid to challenge, you know, years of ignorance. And look at this. I mean, he took a guy that, you know, is a farmer that probably was struggling and put money in his pocket. He's putting money back into the community. He is doing business, but he's doing good, and he's changing people's minds. And my hat goes off to you for doing it. I mean, that's huge.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, because, you know, even this morning, we just made a big deal for Eastern Kentucky farmers with the bioenergy company that's going to change the lives of farmers in Eastern Kentucky.
Tell us a little bit about Green Solutions and how are you doing that now? So you're expanding now into the fuels, it looks like.
Yeah, we're trying to do this part ourselves. We know that no one company can do it all, and that's one thing that we've even noticed in this industry right now. There's also fear of competition. This is a new and emerging industry, and as we tell everybody, we need to separate all for human survival. And what we're going to do is move forward. We got to do it together.
I love that. Him,
I like that.
yeah, and see, again, you know, I'm going to crawl up on my American soapbox. This is an American product made by Americans, putting Americans to work. We've only got 60 seconds left before we have to leave for the day. Chad, tell everybody how to get a hold of you, and
Yeah, what can we do to help?
yeah, what we can do to help.
Well, thank you very much, Chad. You've heard it live. This is a Cannabusiness Attorney from Colorado to Kentucky, sea to shine and sea. See you tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks, Chad. Okay, Chad, we're clear. We're still on YouTube. I'm going to stop that broadcast. Thank you very much for